Dear friends and followers, welcome back to your YouTube channel. As a part of this machine learning series, we are bringing to you some of the very basic concepts of machine learning, and at the same time we are also discussing about them at length. So in this video we will be talking about the R squared statistics metric. So what it is all about, before that we will be talking about something called as goodness of fit statistics. So I'm sure you must have gone through this particular phrase in machine learning nomenclature, which is called as goodness of fit statistics. So what it does is, it is basically a metric which is used in order to quantify the performance of a regression model. So let's say, for example, you have got a regression task to solve, and for that particular task, what you have done is you have designed three different models: M1, M2, and M3. Right now, it is the time for you to choose one particular model. So what you do is you choose any of the goodness of fit statistics which is available, and you compute that particular statistics for each of those models. And whichever model is giving you a higher value for that particular statistics, we consider that particular model to be superior. Okay, and then we choose that particular model as our final model. So depending upon the kind of application that you have at hand, what you can do is, there are different metrics which are available. For example, you can go for mean absolute error, or you can go for root mean squared error also. Okay, now in addition to these two metrics, there is another popular metric which is called as R squared statistics, and in this video it will be our focus. Okay, so mathematically what we do is, we first of all define what R squared metric is all about and how it is computed. So mathematically put as, R square is basically a fraction which is being subtracted from 1. Okay, so this is a very vague definition of R squared statistics. Now let us try to understand what that particular fraction is. Okay, so as is the case with any fraction, this fraction will again be having two parts: a numerator, which in this case is u, okay, which is denoted by a letter u, and there is a denominator which is denoted by letter v. Okay, so what this letter u is all about, u is basically called as the total sum of squared errors, and v is called as total sum of squares. So let us try to understand how these values are computed. Okay, so to begin with, we will start with the sum of squared errors and how it is computed. For all these n data points that we have, what we do is we subtract the prediction value from the corresponding ground truth. The prediction value is given by y subscript I comma predict, and the ground truth is given by y subscript I comma true for the ith sample. Okay, so what we do is, for all the n samples which are available to us, we take the prediction value and we subtract that prediction value from the corresponding ground truth. Once we are able to do this, we square this particular difference and add them for all the samples. So as you can see from this expression, u is computed by a summation which is running from I is equal to 1 to n, which means it is basically covering all the n data points. And what it is computing is the difference between the prediction and the corresponding ground truth squared. Okay, so once we are able to calculate this, we are in a position to have a value for sum of squared errors. Likewise, the denominator in this in the fraction is given by letter v, and it is called as total sum of squares. So how it is computed? What we do is, we take the mean value of the ground truth, mean value for all the samples which are there, and we subtract that particular mean value from the corresponding ground truth. So in the expression, what we are going to have is, the ground truth, the mean of this ground truth is being subtracted from the actual ground truth, and then whatever the difference comes, that particular difference is squared. Okay, and this square difference is added for all the n samples which are having at hand. So once we are able to take the sum of these square differences, we now have a quantity which is called as total sum of squares. So if you look at the expression for computing r square, it was 1 minus u by v. So we have already calculated u, okay, and we have also calculated v. So as a final step to compute r square, what we do is, we put these values in this particular final expression. Okay, and this is what the mathematical definition of R squared statistics is all about. So what you have to do is, you have to individually compute the values for u and v. I already told you how to compute those values, and once you are able to do this particular calculation, take the fraction and subtract it from 1. So whatever result you are going to get, that will be your R squared statistics. Is this fine? Okay. Now this was the mathematical treatment of what R squared statistics is all about. Informally, there is another way to define this R squared statistics. And what is the way? We can define R squared statistics as a fraction of the total response variable variation which is accounted for the linear model. So basically what it means is, see, you have a supervised data set which is a regression task, which is used for regression tasks. Okay, so for all the samples there will be a ground truth value, and that particular ground truth value will be different for all the samples, which means that if you look at the ground truth values, there will be some amount of variation and across all the samples. Okay, so R squared statistics is basically a measure of how much of that particular variation is accounted for by the model, or how much of that particular variation is being able, how much that particular model is able to explain that particular variation. So if my model is such that it is able to explain a lot of variation, that obviously that particular model will be superior. Okay, so this is how we go for the informal definition of R squared statistics. It is basically a fraction, the numerator of which is the variance which is explained by the model divided by the total variance which is there in the model. Okay, so the total variance which is there in the model can be a fixed quantity, and greater the variance being explained by the model, the more superior it is. Is this fine? Okay. So now that you have already learned how to mathematically model this R squared statistics and what its interpretation is all about, we will now move on to implementing this R squared statistics in Python. Okay, so for the, as far as the interface is concerned, I'm using Google Colab. So I'm sure you know what this Google Colab is all about. In case you are not sure about this particular tool, Google Colab is basically a utility which has been provided by Google, and it allows you to run your Python programs online. For more details, I have put the description. I have put the link in the description, so you can go and check this out. Okay. So to start with, what I'm going to do is I will be importing the NumPy library. Why is it so? Because I have to work with numbers and arrays. Okay, so in order to work with arrays, I will be using the NumPy library. Okay, and I will be importing this as alias name np. Why I'm choosing the alias name is because every time I do not want to use NumPy name. Okay, so instead of writing NumPy again and again, I will be choosing a very small alias name, and in this case, I have chosen np. Okay, so I will run this particular cell. Now, the moment I have run this particular cell, my NumPy library has already been imported. Okay, now let us also assume for a while that we have a model in place. Okay, and that particular model has made some predictions. So as in this case, what I have done is I have taken two vectors, y true, which is containing the ground truth for some 10 samples, and I have another vector called y predict, which is having the predictions which have been made by the model. Okay, the model whose R squared statistics we have to compute. So this is a kind of assumption that I have made, that I already have a model which has been trained, and that particular model has made predictions on the 10 sample points. I also have the corresponding ground truth for those 10 sample points. Okay, and these ground truth is contained in a vector called y true, and the predictions are stored in a variable called y predict. Okay, so what I do is I create two simple arrays. The first array is containing the ground truth, and the second array is containing the predictions which have been made by the model. Okay. Now in the next step, what I'm doing is I'm simply printing those predictions and the ground truth separately. So as you can see, there are 10 different ground truth values corresponding to 20 different samples, and again, likewise, we are having 10 different predictions. These predictions have been made by the regression model, which is there at the back end. So we are assuming that there is a model which has given to us these predictions. So for instance, if you look at the first point, the ground truth was equal to 6.5, and the model was able to predict it as 8.5. Likewise, for the second sample, the ground truth was equal to 9.0, and the corresponding prediction was equal to 10.25. So likewise, we have a pair of ground truth values as well as the predictions, right? Now, for the sake of simplicity, what I have done is I have placed these two values next to each other by using the np.columnStack function. So column stack function is actually available in the NumPy library, and what it allows us to do is it stacks two columns vertically next to each other. Okay, so as in this case, what we are going to have is we are going to have a stacked representation where the first column is representing the ground truth values and the second column is representing the predictions. Okay, so as you can see, if you look at this particular tuple, the first entry is equal to 6.5, which means it is the ground truth for the first sample. The second entry is equal to 8.5, which means it is a prediction for the corresponding sample. Likewise, the same argument is going to hold for all these 10 different values. Okay, so now, until now, what we have done is we have a bunch of predictions that have been made by the model, and I also have the corresponding ground truth. So now it is the time to compute the R squared statistics for this particular model. So you already know that R squared is basic for calculating the R squared statistics. I have to compute the value for u and the value for v. which means that first of all I have to compute the sum of squared errors, and then I have to compute the total sum of squares. So let us try to find out how it is done. So how do we compute the squared errors? You already know that squared errors is based nothing but the predictions being subtracted from the corresponding ground truth, and then that particular difference being squared. Okay. So I have the in this particular part I am subtracting the prediction values from the corresponding ground truth, and whatever the difference comes, I am squaring this difference by using double star, double asterisk. Okay, double asterisk in Python is basically used to square the numbers element wise. So these two vectors are containing the ground truth and the prediction values. We are taking the difference element wise, and then whatever the difference comes, that is finally being squared. Okay, by using two asterisks and placing two above it. Okay, now then what I'm doing is I'm just printing the squared errors, and finally I'm taking the sum of all those elements. So I have got the sum, I have got the squared errors for each of those samples. Okay, and then finally what I'm doing is I'm calling this sum function, and this sum function will be adding all those numbers. So let us run this particular cell and look out for ourselves what the results are. Okay, so as you can see, in the first sample the ground truth was 6.5 and the corresponding prediction was 8.5. So if I subtract the prediction from the truth, it comes -2. Okay, and then finally there is a square term. Okay, so square of -2 is equal to 4. So for the first term the square difference is equal to 4. Similarly, if I look at the second sample, the prediction was equal to 10.25 and the ground truth was equal to 9. So if I take this difference, the difference works out to be 1.25 in minus sign. Okay, and then when finally we are taking the square value, so that particular square value will be equal to 1.5625. So these numbers that you see, they are basically the squared error values. So 4 is the squared error for the first sample, 1.5625 is the squared error for the second sample, so on and so forth. Okay, and finally what we have to do is we have to compute the sum of all these values. How do we do this? The square differences are contained in a variable called squared errors. So finally I will be calling the sum function on this squared errors, and whatever the value comes, that particular sum value is actually stored in a variable u. So in this case the sum of squared errors is equal to 136.97. You can also uh, verify it yourself. What you have to do is you have to add 4 plus 1.5625 plus 4 plus 36 all the way up to 20.25. So when you add all these numbers, the result would be equal to 136.972. Is this fine? Okay. So in this particular, so what I have done is I have computed the total squared error. Okay, and finally what I'm going to compute is total sum of squares. So you already know the expression for calculating the total sum of squares. And what is the expression? We are going to subtract the mean value of the ground truth from the corresponding ground truth value. Okay, so the ground truth values are contained in a variable called yTrue, and the mean value can be obtained by calling the mean function on yTrue. Okay, so once I have got this mean value, I will be subtracting this mean value from the corresponding ground truth, and then whatever the difference comes, I will simply be taking the square of that particular difference. Okay, so this square differences are actually contained in a variable called squared diff2. Okay, and finally what I will be doing is I will be adding all the numbers, all these differences. Okay, so in order to add all these differences, I will be calling the sum function. Okay, I will be calling this sum function, and whatever the result comes, that particular result will be stored in a variable v. So finally what I'm going to do is I will be printing the particular value v. So if I run this cell, 3.5625 is E01 is the difference between the truth value and the ground truth value for the first sample, the square difference values. Like this I will be having the square difference values for all these 10 different terms. And finally what I'm going to do is I will be calling the sum function, and this sum function will be able to add all these numbers. So end of the day what I'm going to get is the value of v as 2477.724. So until now what we have obtained is we have obtained the value of u as 136.9724, and we have obtained the value for v as 2477.724. And finally, what I will be doing is I will be computing the R squared statistics coefficient as 1 minus u by v. So we already have the value for v, we already have the value for u. I will be dividing u by v, and whatever the fraction comes, that particular fraction will be subtracted from 1. And finally, the result will be stored in a variable called R squared coefficient. The moment it is stored, I will be printing that particular value. So in this case, if I run this cell, the value for R squared statistics is equal to 0.944, which is fairly a large number and which is an indicative of the fact that my regression model is at least optimal. Okay, it is towards the more superior side. Now this was the implementation of R squared statistics from scratch. Why was it from scratch? Because given the values for the ground truth and the predictions, I have computed the value for u and for v independently, and finally I have taken the fraction and subtracted it from 1. Now if you do not want to go for this scratch implementation, in sklearn there is a utility called R2 score which is available in the matrix package, and using this utility what you can do is you can directly compute the R squared statistics. That means you do not have to go for this scratch implementation. Okay, so how do we do this? So under sklearn.matrix package there is a utility called R2 square. I will be simply importing it using from sklearn.matrix import R2 square function. So once I run this particular cell, I will be having this R2 utility imported. And finally what I will be doing is I will be calling this function, I will be calling this utility, and to this function I will be passing two parameters. The first parameter is the ground truth values, and the second parameter is the predictions that my model has made. So these two values are being passed to this particular R2 square, and then whatever result it is going to get, that particular result is actually stored in a variable R squared coefficient underscore sklearn. This sklearn underscore basically is indicative of the fact that we are using the sklearn library to compute the R squared statistics. In the previous case, I was implementing it from the scratch, so the only variable name was R squared coefficient, and finally I will be printing the value for R squared coefficient sklearn because it is being computed using R2 square utility which is already available in the sklearn package. So once I run this particular cell, what I obtain is the same value for the R squared coefficient that I had obtained in the previous stage. So you remember that when implementing from the scratch, the R squared coefficient was equal to 0.9447. Likewise, when I have used the inbuilt library also, this time also I am getting the same result which is equal to 0.9477. So this is again verifying that my scratch implementation is correct. Okay. Now there are some questions regarding to R squared statistics coefficient that are worth mentioning here. So what I have done is all those things I have put as a question answer series. So let us talk about the first question that we have at hand. The first question is, are low square R values always bad? So we already know that given a goodness of fit statistics, we always prefer a model which is giving you a higher value for this R squared statistics or any goodness of fit statistics. But now the question is, in case you are going to get a low value for R square, is that thing bad? So the short answer is no, and the long answer requires some explanation. For example, if you are working on human psychology field where you have to predict some sort of human behavior. So in general, it is always believed that it is always difficult for you to predict the human behavior as such. So whatever regression model you choose, that particular regression model is bound to make a lot of mistakes. The behavior of that prediction will be very much different from the actual behavior. Okay. So in those kind of situations when it is not possible for your model to make very accurate predictions, such as human psychology, you can go for even a lower values for R square. Okay. Now there can be a case when the R square value that you are able to obtain is low, but then there are some other goodness of it statistics or some statistically significant predictors which are ruling in favor of that particular model. So you have a model which is giving you a low value for R square, but then there are some significant predictors which are statistically promoting that particular model. So in these cases, what we do is instead of relying entirely on the R square value, we also take the values which are being signified by these statistical predictors, and accordingly we make a judgment. Which means that the R square is not the only criteria that we are going to make use of in order to select a model, particularly when that particular model is having very high statistical predictors. Okay. Now The second question that is basically asked is when a low value of R square is going to hurt us. Now, in some cases, you can go with a low value for R square statistics, such as human psychology, but then there are certain applications where the low value for R square is entirely undesirable. For instance, if you talk about the mission critical systems, when the performance of a regression model is of utmost importance to us, in such systems, it is not desirable to have a low value for R square statistics. Okay, so in those kind of applications, we will always be going for models which are giving you a high value for R square statistics. Now, the third question that is basically asked is quite subjective in nature, and that question is how high a value for R square is actually high. Okay, so we in general what we say is that a high model which is able to give you a high value for R square is better model. But then the question is, what is that high? Is there any threshold or is there a proper definition of what this high is? So the short answer is that there is no such clear-cut definition of what this high is all about. It all depends upon the prediction interval, the total response variation which is contained in the target variable. That response or that variation in the response is going to dictate how what value should be assigned as high. Okay. Now, another question that is basically asked regarding to R square statistics is, can a high value for R square be undesirable? So until now what we have been talking about is that we prefer a model which is giving you a high value for R square. And we also talked about some applications where a low value of R square is okay. But in some cases, even high value for R square can be undesirable. So what I will be doing is, there are certain situations in which a very high value for R square can be very much undesirable. So I will not be explaining the reason why. So as a hint, what I will be doing is, try to think of this answer in terms of underfit and overfit. So this is a hint that I am providing to you. I'm not going to give you the answers. You can comment the answers in case you wish to. Okay, but when you are trying to look for the answer, always try to think in terms of underfit or overfit. If you look at a particular model from the angle of underfit or overfit, then probably you will come across a scenario where even a high value for R square can be undesirable. Okay. Now, as is the case with any matrix, okay, there are certain limitations to this R square statistics. So first of all, the first limitation is that it cannot determine if the coefficient estimates are biased. So it is a measure of how well the predictions are, how close the predictions are to the ground truth, but it is not able to figure out if your model is biased. Okay, so in those cases, if you have to also look for the bias content in the model, you can go for residual plots. I will be putting this video very shortly regarding the residual plots, but as of now, think in very general terms that residual plots can sometimes be used in conjunction with R squared statistics to also find out if my model is biased. Okay. Now, apart from this limitation, R squared statistics also suffers from another limitation, which is that it has no way to find out if the regression model is adequate. Okay, so adequate means how complex a model should be go for. It has got no way to figure this out, and it is not giving you this information. Okay, so in general what we do is we also look for some different metrics also in conjunction with R squared statistics to have a feel of how complex a model should be chosen for a given application. R square in such cannot give you this information. Okay. Now, with this particular discussion, there are some points which are going to act as a bottom line. So the first is bottom line that we are going to have is that while R square is more robust compared to mean absolute error or root mean squared error metrics, it does not tell you the entire story. As we have discussed earlier also, like it is not giving you an estimate of how complex the model is. Similarly, it is not able to tell you if there is a bias in the model or not. Okay, so R square in general is not giving you, it is giving you more information compared to mean absolute error or root mean squared error, but then it is not giving you the entire story. So in case you wish to have a look at the entire story, you will probably have to use it in conjunction with residual plots or some other statistical metrics. We will be talking about those metrics very shortly, but as of now, please understand that R squared is going to give you a lot of information, but then it is not giving you the complete information. Now, what could be the possible solution? One of the possible solutions that we have to mitigate these limitations of R squared statistics is something called as R squared adjusted. Okay, so like R squared statistics, R square adjusted is also a metric which is used in order to quantify the performance of a regression model. My next video will be talking about this R square adjusted matrix only. Okay. So as of now, what I will be doing is I will be giving you some hints which led to the evolution of this particular matrix. Okay. So if you talk about R squared matrix, it was found that it was sensitive to the total number of features which are there in a model. Now those features can be useful to us, those features may not also be useful to us, right? Irrespective of the fact, R square was shown to be sensitive to the total number of parameters or total number of features. Okay, so this is something very much undesirable, because in general what we want is that whatever goodness of fit statistics we choose, that particular goodness of fit statistics be sensitive only to the most relevant features. That was not the case with R square matrix, because it was sensitive to all the features irrespective of their importance. Okay, and this was precisely the reason why R square adjusted came into being in the first place. Okay, so we will be talking about this R square adjusted matrix very soon. Probably by the next week the video will be uploaded. Okay, so till then I hope you have learned something new. In case you have learned something new, please feel free to share this among your friends. This can be useful to anybody who is going for interviews or whosoever is interested in the area of machine learning and data analytics. So I will see you again next week. Till then, have a good day.